So, how to stay healthy naturally. So, today's topic is just about that, how to stay healthy with maybe not standard or conventional healing methods, or we're looking at it from a different perspective. So, there are various perspectives in answering this question, and it's a rich and complex subject. So, I'm going to approach it from the most obvious, maybe, or the most easily kind of understandable perspective. So, in my opinion, the biggest issue with much of today's healing methods, both standard and alternative, is that there is an assumption that we're all the same, meaning that our organism, right, the human body, functions in the same way and responds to stimulus and medicine in the same way, like all across the board. So, the only healing philosophies and methods, modalities that address our individuality are Ayurveda from India and 8 constitution medicine from Korea. So both of these approaches to medicine address, right, or really highlight that there are various body types and that not all food, medicine, health treatments, supplements are appropriate or even beneficial for everybody, regardless of what people say or what the popular fad is at the time. So, for example, if one person thrives with a diet of, a lot of meats, potatoes, certain spices, right? Another person may develop a major illness or feel very weak and sick from the same diet over time, of course. If one person, another person, responds really well to eating a vegetarian diet, right, like mainly just leafy greens and all that stuff, another person may become actually severely malnourished, weak, fatigued, and sick eventually, right, with the same diet. And the same applies with medical treatments, pharmaceuticals, and supplements. So let's start with Ayurveda. So Ayurveda perceives the world to be composed of 5 basic elements. So those 5 elements are earth, water, fire, air, and space. And that everything and everyone, and that's not only every person, but every object and every action, right? Every interaction on the earth has a varying degree of those ingredients. And this is actually very fascinating, and I've studied the philosophy of Ayurveda and really enjoy it. So in regards to healing, because the philosophy of Ayurveda encompasses all these things, every action and reaction on earth has to have a certain degree of those elements present to be productive, to be effective. But in regards to healing of our human body, what's happening internally, a person, for example, who is pitta, so that is the Ayurvedic definition of a person that dominantly possesses the characteristics of the element of fire. So that particular person, a pitta, needs to stay away from foods and activities that would aggravate or increase the fire element in their body and thus taking them out of balance. So what does that look like? So no spicy foods, no activities or even environments that would add to the heat and fire in their body. So they need foods, activities, environments that balance them, right? That cool their bodies and their temperaments. Now, let's look at the same kind of a thing from the perspective of the 8 constitution medicine originating from Korea. So they look at it like each person has an internal composition of organs that vary in strength. So for example, someone with strong lungs, right, would be called the pulmonarian body type, pulmonarian. So according to this philosophy, this body type has very strong lungs, right? But there's a sort of a descending order of what's strong, weaker, weaker, weaker in terms of their organs. So that body type has a weak liver and even weaker kidneys. So their diet has to consist of foods that do not strengthen the lungs, right? Thus taking the body even further out of balance, but actually strengthen and support the liver and the kidneys. So what does that look like specifically? So for that person, no greasy or fried foods are recommended, no meat. This person cannot tolerate a heavy meat diet and from animal meats. So what can they eat? So a light diet of fish, veggies, rice, nothing fried or too oily. That sort of a diet is ideal for this kind of body type. So I actually had the opportunity to be diagnosed and treated by practitioners of both healing modalities, and I really was impressed by both. Regarding the Korean practitioner I visited, because I know that's the kind of not as well known healing philosophy. Most people have heard of Ayurveda, but the eight constitution medicine, the practitioner I visited, Dr. Kwan, was actually the son of the founder of that philosophy. Not the original founder, which was originally the four constitution model, which is very old and ancient, but the one who kind of expanded the original four constitution model into the eight constitution model. This doctor was amazing. I can't say, enough about him. I also have to say that his waiting room, and he had a very simple office. He had no receptionist. This was kind of in a office in a big building with lots of different little rentals. Very, very simple, very modest. But the whole waiting room was full of people. Right? You really had to wait to get to your turn to get to Dr. Kwan. And all of them had amazing stories of their own miracle healings and recoveries. I mean, it would take me another hour just to communicate to you all that, all these people, the stories that they had of their recovery from people that had crippling issues and were on tons of meds to just try to function, how they got freed up and how their body healed. But if you look at it, right, if you're like, oh my gosh, it's this doctor and he's just a miracle worker. But no, it's really, it makes sense, the approach to this sort of healing method or this kind of philosophy. The human body is a magnificent creation. And if you accurately understand your particular body type and what it needs and what it doesn't, what it likes and what it doesn't like, and you stop ingesting the foods and stop the practices that are aggravating it, right? Detracting, costing the body, and then you eat the foods and engage in practices that are nourishing your body, right? It will heal, it will recover. It's a magnificent model. It's a self-sustaining model. And other thing I wanted to add was that actually we are given the gift, right, of intuiting, our body communicates to us what it needs. So if we were just free of all the programming, right, if we weren't watching commercials and they're telling us, so you must take this medicine or this supplement, or coffee is amazing for you, or ginseng is your thing, or turmeric, whatever you're getting programmed with, or whatever the herd is telling you. If you put all that aside and just are listening to your internal messages, your body will tell you what it's craving, what it needs. You will naturally be drawn to the foods and naturally attracted to do and eat what is good for you. Right. But we're kind of removed from that. We're kind of more into what is going on, what's popular, what people are telling you, stories of others. And the ideal healer would not only be knowledgeable, right, having all that information, knowing how to diagnose, but also the ideal healer would be deeply compassionate and very intuitive. In my feeling, I feel that there was a civilization, maybe long time ago, thousands of years ago, before our recorded history or before what we're told, maybe a whole nother age, that kind of healer, that kind of approach to healing was the norm, right? And it's not so easy to find these days, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. Right? So I'm going to talk more in future episodes, future lives about this and what I've discovered and the healers that I've been really impressed with and what I know. So I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you tomorrow.